Hey, wonderful people. Might have been very loud. It is a bonus stream. It's Monday evening. It is coming on 7:30 East Coast time. I hope everybody's having a beautiful Monday. And I'm going to be doing some cartooning in Nomad Sculpt. This is going to be a short one. Kind of a bonus stream just because I posted the latest episode of The Middle Age, which you can check out at WEBTOONs and Tapas and GoComics and on my own website at middleagecomic.com. But today I'm going to be working on a little bit of a new 3D model. This is the final version, I think, of the miniature, very detailed miniature of Sir Quimp of Grawlix, the main character from the Middle Age. I think I'm pretty happy with it. Unlike the previous model of our hero, this is a much more aggressive stance. Oh, I don't have my backlighting on. Alright, that's what I get for not looking at my checklist. There we go. This is a much more aggressive stance over here. He's lunging forward. The previous one had him kind of gently stepping forward. This is way better. The arrows and other objects are a lot thicker. The sword's a lot thicker. I think if someone's going to be 3D printing this, and the plan is that someone will be 3D printing this at the very least, that this will make it a lot easier since they're sturdier objects. I also did some really cool stuff compared to what I had done before. Like the lacing here. These used to be bands of clay. Now they're flattened cylinders. I just created a cylinder and really flattened it, really smushed it, and embedded that into the shape. I was trying to think before, like I was treating it like it was a real object and not a mold where I'm just slapping pieces. The more I created objects that just sort of stick into other objects, the chunkier everything is, and in the end, the kind of cooler it is. Now, in the story, I never draw this on the character of Quimp in the comic, but he's had a map. He has a to-do list. He's got these little parchments and things. And so in this case, I have it actually on his belt. It's very hard to see that there's a rolled up kind of bit of parchment. Wattlebottom's map. I have no idea if that would print, but I figured I'd include it. In my previous demonstration about... demonstration is the wrong word. Fumbling through the software. I said that I hated the stamp tool in Nomad Sculpt. I just didn't understand it. That's always how it is. There are some settings you can do to adjust how the stamp functions. The default setting for it is awful, but once you know how to tweak it, it's actually pretty great. So I was able to stamp our hero's crest onto his tabard. And I put a lot more life into the tabard by putting folds and pinches and things like that. Overall, I'm super happy with how it turned out. But this is going to be the starting document. I'm going to use this. We're going to start working on one of the wizard from the story, Melvin. And so I want to start with this base and basically have him available as kind of a reference for how I'm going to scale the other character. I want them to feel right alongside each other and kind of be proportionate to one another. And this is an interpretation of the character. And I want all the interpretations to match alongside each other. So using this as my starting point, I'm going to save it where it is. This file is called like Quimp Mini 1 Final 2, which is usual for me. Oh, hey LJ, how are you? I'll put the chat on here. Hey, there we are. Anytime I name something final, it's never final. It's always like one more version, one more iteration. What I found was this creates a very complex model, which would probably choke most 3D printers. And I want to provide an STL file, which is the kind of generic 3D format file. I want to provide that to my Patreon supporters. So everyone at the $5 level and above can download an STL file and see if their printer can print it. I bet if they have a resin printer, they'll probably have better luck with it. Like I said, a PLA printer, one of those extrusion type printers, we're going to have a much tougher problem given that it basically builds things from the bottom and has to create all sorts of supports for everything that's protruding. And he has a lot of protruding. There's also the underside of the cape. I've noticed that a lot of models that people make, like Hero Forge's models and others, the cape flares out in a very, it flows away from the body. I think the notion is with that is that the supports will go under the cape and can be clipped off easily, or they can create kind of a trellis and then it'll come out like an awning to the character's back, which is fine. In this case, actually I think I can draw, well, I won't do that. I'll have to start saving the file again. So the idea, if the cape were to flow, how do I do it? Wait, like that? We're like this for the camera, flowing away from our character's back. That will allow them really to create an awning and then clip the supports for the awning out. The way my character's cape is, it's currently form-fitting, it's going the other way, which means there are some supports that would have to go under the cape. I don't mind that. At first I thought, well, the more supports that are holding the bottom of the cape, the better, because it's just going to make the bottom of the cape look more ragged, which is appropriate. But I may get some 3D people scolding me for how I built this. Yeah, and I think that's right, LJ. I think the stretch goals for the Kickstarter will be, I'm going to actually get real models made where people who make professional casts and will assemble things in a much more modular way. So they might make molds where things get created in a way that doesn't require someone to have a 3D printer, or even if they do have a 3D printer, these will create nicer prints. Things like the arrows might be included separately with holes for you to take the arrow and just glue it into place. Something like that. Or they'll do that themselves and provide it that way finished for the person. But I see a lot of these model kits, it's real simple stuff like, you know, here are the 3 arrows and here's the axe, just put it right where it goes. And the model makers like that. Larger size, it could probably be printed just fine as it is. And I would like to see a good 3 or 4 inch tall version of this, which I think a 3D printer would handle just fine. I'm really like the just over a 1 inch tall little minifigures for the D&D table. It's just, you know, even as chunky as I made this chainmail, it's just going to fall apart. Anywho, okay, I've saved the file. I'm going to save a new copy as Melvin Test, because this is really just going to be a rough attempt. And then here's I'm going to put the platform and the cobblestone to the very bottom of our list, and I'm going to delete everything else. Alrighty. I'm also going to insert a reference image. And that is yeah, I think it just sticks at that size, but that will give me a good starting point for roughly what I want for the figure. Again, this is just trying to get Melvin. I want to see if I can build him and build his face, build the beard. That's way trickier than Quimp's road cone head. Hey, NPC, how are you? And 3 to 4 inches is great for non-D&D fans. Oh, that's great. I hope that would be that's roughly what I'd like to see. Oh, hey, how are you? Oh my goodness, I missed a lot of chat. I'm just so surprised it's working in the area below. I'm glad you like the young Quimp. That was really funny to do. I didn't think I'd ever show a flashback of the character, but I'm glad people really responded to him as being very pretty. I try to make it like I never wanted. The sword makes fun of Quimp's habits, but I try never to make fun of Quimp's physicality. I don't want to pick on him. I want to provide. I never want to provide jokes that people could read and then, like jerks could take a joke I write and then turn it against another person in a bullying way. That's been a worry. So I wanted to show Quimp as a younger person, always as a stocky person, dad bod kind of thicker person, and just he's indulged. He is and he's older and just getting older. Soft, and and then cartooning just pushes everything. So if anything is, every time you're cartooning, you draw a delicious piece of cake, it has to be the most delicious piece of cake. If you're going to draw someone who's tired, they have to be exhausted. So everything gets pushed. And so, Quimp's size and his shape was, part of it was the trying to create an iconic shape of a character who could be identified from, even as a silhouette. But also just, he's an older dude. Anywho, but showing him as a younger person was fun. The long flowing blonde hair. Okay, so Melvin's head is taller. We never see most of it. Let's just zoom in. Forget about the model itself. Let's turn off that. Well, the drawing might be a little helpful. Look at it from the front. Symmetry should be... Oh no, it's delayed. I had to validate it first. I'm going to increase mesh a little bit. Symmetry's turned on. Clay set to sub. Good. Just making sure things are working the way they're supposed to as I get into it. Does Maledicta have a gender? Not really. It has been asked before. People have wondered about the voice of Maledicta. That's kind of something I get away with as a comic, having it in comic form, where I don't have to specify. It's Maledicta's voice is in your head, and I don't have to think about. But it doesn't really. It's masculine in a lot of ways, in that it's a sword and it's it's very phallic, but it is. And there's definitely jokes along those lines about Quimp being older and having sword troubles. That's absolutely part of the joke, or at least the easiest, lowest hanging fruit of the joke. It's the most obvious source of parody, but it's so easy that it's like, not all that interesting. But I can't always trust my own. I definitely, there's definitely like a fart joke in the story, or a poop joke. There's going to be that sort of thing, because biology's funny. These awkward shells we're walking around in are laughable. Okay, his head. I'm gonna shrink the whole head down a little bit. I really want the features and everything to be. In the end, his nose and eyes are very packed in. Hey, Under the Norm. Nice to see you over on Twitch. Blame it on the cream he drinks. I don't think it's keto. No, it is not. He is not. He doesn't watch what he eats. He's very much a sensualist. He really he enjoys himself. He loves his life, and he was married to Phosphonate. They still, I don't know, who knows. That's dragons are complicated, but he was done. He thought his courting days were over. that's wrong. Inflate that. The inflate tool is one of the best tools in this program. It is like... He's turning into Waddle Bottom. If this becomes a Waddle Bottom sculpture, you'll know why. I'm going to turn off the discs, the platform and the sphere. Oh, not the sphere, the cobblestone. Turn those off for now. There's no spoilers here. I'm not saying that Melvin is part duck. That's just how he's looking at the moment. I'm just adding a little bit of clay. I'm gonna remesh it. I can see like little marks appearing. One of the things I found with the previous sculpt was that the character is so big. The detail is, there's so much detail that I have to export it, re-import it, remesh it to get rid of a lot of detail. And then bring it into a desktop program, which doesn't want to work on a Mac anymore, called Mesh Mixer, and use that to simplify it and fix problems with it. Because this might look great on it might look fine on my computer screen, but it might not work at all when printed. So I had to correct a lot of that stuff. And the program does that. Alright, I'm going to use subtract. Oh, let me use the brush tool. The brush tends to be a lot stronger. And I think, did you print the Quimp statue? Oh, I'm glad you like the twist, MPC, Max Powers Comics. Well, I won't go into spoilers-ish, kind of. It's a couple of years old now, but... commenting on the fact that Quimp, our hero, is not alive. That's not a spoiler. If you're watching this, you probably know. And it's not really a big spoiler. He dies on page 1. It's not entirely obvious he is, because it's certainly not obvious to him. And the thing which killed him keeps threatening his life. As motivational speaking. Okay, I need to bring that down. I should be using the move tool. Let me undo that. No, I'll use the smooth tool to flatten it. Maybe that'll take care of it. And I need to extend it out some. It's a bigger... Melvin's nose has gotten longer during the course of this story. It wasn't so big at the beginning, but at some point I drew it in like a hot dog sticking out of his head, and it kind of stuck. But he's a wizard. He's always changing. Probably another magic fight with his brother. Caused issues. I'm using the smooth tool just to kind of bring that paper. Okay, I'm so glad you like that, LJ. That was sort of a... That was a... I'd say that completely slowed down the production of the episode, but initially a lot of the dialogue can be very... like the king's dialogue in panel 1 is very exposition-y. It's like, you know, drop the body, please leave and don't disturb me, because it's important that they leave quickly so that, you know, the king has to give them an order to get out of there, because I don't show them leaving. To show them leaving the tent would be taking time away from showing the king and the baby dragon and the close-up of the king, the turn, and then Quimp getting up. I mean, with a comic, at some point you can get into the weeds of showing, you know, a slideshow of a person getting up. You know, they put their hands on the arms of the chair, they push themselves to their feet, they stand up, they lay down their glasses, they turn, they walk to the door, they open the door, they go through the door, or you can just say, I'm gonna go get a coffee in panel 1 and an empty room in panel 2. And how you economize is such a big deal. And so sometimes I use the exposition as to get me out of a lot of drawing, or to explain stuff, given that the camera rarely cuts away. It's not like this comic is almost one long tracking shot with cuts when our hero loses consciousness. So in this case, he's brought in. The king has to say, "You guys drop off the body. Thank you. Get out, and do not disturb me, because some stuff's about to go down." And oh wow, thanks NPC. Yeah, that's very kind. Max Powers Comics writes, "Top 5 plot twists in webcomics. It's cool that it grants him temporary life until he completes his quest." I don't remember why I did that. I wish I could understand. I think my sense is that okay. That's very kind of you, NPC. LJ writes, asks, surprised that the knights didn't wonder about the king not being interrupted with a dead man. I think this king asks not to be disturbed often. And I think even if the king leave, we don't want to be disturbed. I thought about that. He could be referring to the baby dragons. So I think there's all sorts of noises from the tent of like baby dragons, you know, possibly sneezing and setting something on fire, or breaking something, or whoever else may be in the tent still. We haven't seen an establishing shot of the whole interior. So and I think they just follow orders. I think they're very much I didn't include again yes, Your Majesty, but I think the previous episode had that 3 times. Like, these guys follow orders. They listen to their king, and they don't question the king's. That's my thinking about it. But if it's something that needs addressing in the story, I've certainly done that too. I think that, to me, it was sort of clear that those 2 dragons were Jarn and Niddles. There was 2 of them, they were the right size. But since Niddles doesn't have the garland on their head, that it opened up the question. People on WEBTOONs wondered. And I think that's one of the reasons why in panel 4 to today's episode, Quimp goes out of his way to say, "Oh no, Jar Niddles, you know, set the on fire." I could have had, "Hey, whelps," you know, I'm always thinking about economizing and shrinking the amount of text I have to squeeze into an episode. But ooh, too much. Yeah, the brush tool in this really will carve out a shape. Now I'm going to put the eyeballs in. Oops. Zoom out a little bit. Where are you, sphere 2? Go to the side view. And using the blue arrow, drag that out. And let's enlarge the eyeball. Stretch it up a little bit, more egg-shaped. I'm going to mirror it and validate it. Yeah, if you don't validate it, it just kind of gives you a ghostly version of the other one. You know, I don't think it matters. It's easy to create an extra sphere. Niddles had the garland. LJS asking about the garland. Since the Ambrosian Fields. Once Ambrosia comes back and is restored, and those singing flowers, and they bring one of the flowers to Quimp, and he smells it and he likes it. It doesn't have much of an effect on him. He's, you know, all it does is make a person love and incapable of hate. That's kind of his, you know, that's his standard operating procedure. But it really affected Maledicta. And Niddles grabbed a garland, grabbed a bunch of them, and just had it on their head from the beginning. I would say with a purpose. But ooh, wrong tool. I'm supposed to hit the smooth tool and not the wobbly. I'm just using the crease tool to kind of carve out some heavier shapes, which I'll soften in the end. But I like having these heavy shapes to start. But I don't think Niddles has removed the garland in the story at any point. But I did like the idea that when I presented the dragons in the, you know, in the home, that's something I gotta watch for. Make sure I gotta put that back to orthographic. I had perspective on when I was working on the other model, and so this figure has had some perspective things happening. I think I want to treat it more isometrically to begin with before I get too deep into things. So I'm putting in those for the eyes and things like that. I got to put the brow in to make sure the brow is way heavier than the rest. First pass of trying to 3D model this particular figure. I'm taking this as an opportunity to kind of get the sense of how I would put it together, and this might not, I could likely throw this, I will likely just discard this and start over with tomorrow's legit stream. I think the eyebrows have to be done as separate things. And I think I want to do them as tubes of material. I had some interesting luck extruding pieces of the cape of our hero where the axe was torn. Where the axe had torn it and the arrows had torn it. I don't know if I could do that in this case. I'm inclined to try, though. What's the worst that happens? I just delete it. Now his eyebrows are crazy and swoop out. So what I'm going to do is I just drew on the shape with the mask tool. I hit the unmask to clean that up a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this as if it were a, you know, like the texture of something, like a symbol on it or something like that, or a bit of cape, a bit of drapery. We go up to the mask, set it up fairly thick, and extract. That could be crazier and thicker. Yeah, this is something I stumbled on with how I made the cape by extracting it over a drapery that I draped. I made the sculpture as if you were going to, as a mold, pour something on the outside of and let it cool. The idea was from partly from watching the Great British Baking Show, where they're pouring chocolate on top of a balloon or liquid sugar on top of a balloon, letting the material cool, harden, and then popping the balloon and removing it, or putting it on top of a shell of some kind, like a bowl or something like that, and then pulling it away, but on the outside. And I thought that would be a cool way to, instead of trying to take a flat shape and bend it into the shape of a curve, but to give it that shape from the get-go. And now I don't know how I'm going to undo it if I have to make the cape flow out for easier 3D printing. But, okay, so that's his eyebrow. That creates a separate mesh. When you draw on the object and then extrude it, it creates a... Wait, extrude's the wrong word. Let me make sure I'm getting the exact word right. When you extract it, it pops it forward as a separate mesh. Now these things, they're still set to symmetry. So what I liked about going around the head was that now I have extra bits that I can pull off and have fly toward the camera. I'm not entirely sure if I like these yet. I think the idea would be, I'd love to have kind of a, I don't know. I wish I could sculpt them into harder shapes, but let's see. I'll see what I can do. I'm just going to smooth it to begin with. I'm going to do is I'm going to select that. Right when you extract a piece from it, the original mask that you've drawn, original shape is still there. That can be really handy. You won't see that if you click the view mode and just say okay, show me the final. Because currently, if you view mode selected, whatever is selected is a lighter color and everything else is darkened to show you what you've got selected. But I'm going to go into the mask and clear it so it's just without the extra drawing bits on there. I'm going to scale it up and then bring them down a little bit. So I'm going to stretch them vertically, then slide them down. I do like that they're not evil looking. I'll smooth them out some more. And I'm going to work on some flare. See if I can have some fun with them. I still want to use the tube tool. I think that's going to be key. I don't know. I'm not happy with that either. I will hide that tube. I'll just try the drag tool some more. See if I can move it in a way that I don't hate. I also think cutting it will help. I'm going to create the radius for this move tool and just move the whole thing up a bit for the drag tool and the move tool. David Peterson is now hosting my stream. Oh my goodness. Hello, David. Oh my goodness. Holy cow. Hello, everybody. There's more viewers than I've ever had. Welcome. I'm attempting to draw wizard eyebrows, so you're coming at the perfect time. Well, welcome. My name is Steve Conley. I am a web cartoonist and have been for a god-awfully long time. I will show you all the latest thing I've been working on. Is this the right one? Yes, this is the right one. I've recently finished a 3D model of one of my characters from my webcomic, The Middle Age. And I'm working on an iPad Pro right now. Thank you so much, Ghost Bear. And oh my goodness, I have to keep... Vic Creator, hello. The Real Bearminator, hello. Ghost Bear... Frozen Toes, perhaps. Ouija Time. Sheikh Zula CC. Hello, hello, hello. That's so very sweet. Welcome. I know your YouTube fans are watching over there, but no one is going to discover your stream on Twitch. You have when you have single-digit viewer count. Yeah, that's so true. So true. I was watching a video about that. Frozen Toes, it is. Oh, that's great. I have a friend that always wanted wizard eyebrows. You really have to nurture those, because if you have like one out of place, you know, everyone's going to stare at it. But you have to be patient. You got to let 7 or 8 of them gather strength. But this is a character. His name is Sir Quimp. The webcomic is called The Middle Age, which I write and draw. It's free to read on WEBTOONs and Tapas and GoComics. And I'm a big fan of Mr. David Peterson, as I tell him I'm sure to the point of both of us blushing. This is I'm working on in a program called Nomad Sculpt on an iPad Pro. Hello, Cave Geek Art. Thank you so much for the follow. And it's turned out really well. I think this is the final version of it. I've created an STL file, which I'll make available to my kind Patreon supporters. But you can read my webcomic for free, totally for free, over at middleagecomic.com and WEBTOONs and Tapas and GoComics. And right now, I can work on that wizard, those eyebrows. Oh no, did I not save? Did I get so enthusiastic? Oh no, I did save. Heart attack. But I really don't know what I'm doing. I've had this program for about 2 weeks. and I'm really just trying to figure it all out. A new episode of my webcomic just posted, and my streams are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 8, because all the really good people are Mondays and Wednesdays. To clear off that mask that I've done. And my webcomic is about a knight who is in love with a dragon, and he has a cursed sword which hates him. Now, I did lose a slight bit of progress on this, but it has been nominated for an Eisner Award and a Ringo Award and a National Cartoonist Society Award. And I did fill out the application, David. The hoops they make you jump through. I'm almost certain I did it wrong. Hello, Sleepless Ninja. Thank you so much for the follow. And Mescalicantes. I'm gonna like, I pronounce centipede as centipede, so every pronunciation is gonna be weird. Avocados or avocados. So I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. Alright, so I'm going to smooth these eyebrows out. Not because I want them to be smooth, I want them to be crazy. But I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to use the inflate tool just to kind of add a ton of mass to them. And I think the plan there after that is going to drag them out and then just cut them with a knife. And hopefully have nice... I mean, I have to increase the number of pixels because right now this is way too... I don't have enough. The pixels are the mesh is sort of like the dots per inch. If you don't have enough material there, if you don't have a high enough resolution, you know, there's only so much detail you could put into a page. So this will bite me in the butt later on, but okay. So now I'm gonna use a trim tool and a lasso. Just try to cut out some shapes of funky eyebrows. I may end up just redoing these as sort of like like drapery. I think if I treat them like drapes, like if they're like a flowing cape, then I think I've had some luck with those kind of shapes in this program. I think if I do that, then I can fake these eyebrows in a way that I won't hate. I'm going to use the crease tool, but I'm going to reverse it so that flowing top. I think the crease tool is going to be my friend with these eyebrows. Dave Peterson, I just missed your stream. I was working. Vic Creator writes, so Steve, how does resolution work for 3D? Could someone print this from the STL file at life size? Yes, they could. It would start to, the facets would probably become visible at a certain point. But yeah, they can print it any size. I don't think there's a restriction. The model that I did, I think, could print. I really was trying to simplify it, but you know, I get in there and I start noodling all the little stuff. I think it will hopefully work at a very small size. I found a person I think will do a resin print, which is one of the higher end kinds of 3D prints. And I want to see how that works. And if it's good, then I might go and talk to a pro company about creating a mold and doing high end prints. But yeah, the STL I think it's like vector. It's resolution independent. Vic Creator writes, hi Steve Conley, I know you are sculpting, but I would like to ask, what is your recommended way to self-publishing webcomics today and get noticed? Awesome work. Oh wow, that's so kind. My approach for webcomics is to publish everywhere, as widely as possible, because you never know where you never know where you'll catch fire, where where you'll resonate with a particular audience. So I make my comics available on my own website. I post them to social media. You know, your mileage may vary, and they're getting worse every day. Except for Reddit, which it, again, has a completely random results. It could be amazing, or it could be nothing. Reddit is like a total wild card. But it still can be amazing, whereas I don't think Twitter, unless Neil Gaiman retweets you for some reason, I don't know if it has, you know, it's way too much of a lottery to get lucky with those with Twitter and Instagram is a slow build. I don't think there's a way to game Instagram short of buying followers. Or doing lots of fan art. I take that back. If you do a ton of fan art. As for promotion, if you check my YouTube channel, there should be a link eventually cycling down at the bottom. I did put together a couple of videos about promoting webcomics with my top 10 favorite ways of promoting webcomics. But that includes fan art. It includes having a mailing list. It includes publishing widely. It includes what else? There was 10 of them. Postcards. I mean, low-tech stuff. Postcards. They're all over there at the moment. I won't get up. But I have a postcard that I also do signings and events. I do comic conventions, and you know, it's as safely as you can if you can do public events. And again, it's mostly just getting in front of as many people as possible. There's a large audience that's not going to dig your work. It's just life, you know. There's people who don't like. There's people who don't like chocolate, you know, and I like licorice. So you know, we're all tastes are subjective and weird. I think the eyebrow's going to work. I think if I cut it and then apply a sharpness to it, I think once these are chunky enough, I think I'm really going to like them. And then I can do the same thing with the beard. That's going to be the tricky bit. I'm glad I did them as a separate shape. It's going to be easier for me to move them around and do fun things with. I hope that helps. Neil loves the middle age. Yeah, he does. I'm sure. Yeah, no, he doesn't know who I am. No one knows who I am. I like that. I'm flying beneath the radar. He told everyone about it on social media. Then he deleted those tweets because I haven't gotten canceled yet, but the night is young. I don't think. Can you be canceled if you were never, whatever uncanceled? When you there seems to be, you need to have a threshold of popularity, I think, to be canceled. No one knows who I am. You can hit the solo button as well down here, and it'll show you just the thing you're working on. That's a super helpful thing. And so this program is called Nomad Sculpt. Again, I've only been using it for about 3 weeks. It is really awesome. There's a free version on Android, which will give you a limited number of elements that you can build, and then it's $15. And iOS, there's no free version or no demo version. You just I just plunked in the $15, and I've been super happy with it. I did have to do a lot of post processing for the sculpt. So I build this complicated thing with all these pieces. I export it as an STL file, which creates as a single object. I then re-import it into this and then did that remesh thing where I reduced the number of facets on the whole thing. So now it's all one large object, and I've reduced the number of facets. And it went from being like 1.5. What was it? Was it mega? I think it was almost. It might have been over a gigabyte or something like that in its original. Blender on PC has sculpting as well. I admire anybody who can work Blender. I went into it, and Blender looks awesome. It is super powerful. It's got real rigging and gravity and all sorts of awesomeness about it. But for someone with a small brain, the limited palette of tools you see in the upper right there, this is my speed. The other Steve Conley adopted every available kitten and then enrolled them. I did hear about him. He's awful. He's awful. That other Steve Conley. I only have the one cat. He's asleep. What have you done to David? What have you done to him? Okay, so I will not belabor these eyebrows anymore, but I will. Absolutely. But I think I should be able to have them bloom out. I don't want them to be bat wings, but I'll have them bloom out in a fun way. Let's try the mustache and see if I could do that. Instead of creating an object, what I did was I just drew it on and then extruded it, and it worked. That seemed to work out really well. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. So I'm going to select the shape, choose the mask tool with symmetry on. Symmetry means that when I draw on one half of the thing, it's symmetrical on both sides. So he's going to have a mustache that goes, and I don't mind if it's going to go around Kenneth Branagh Poirot style on the sides of the face, because eventually I'm going to have it extrude out, and so having it extend out in all those directions, I'll bend it forward and scale it and do stuff to it. But this is just going to give me, because I could otherwise try to create a cylinder or a cube of some kind and then cut it into this shape, and maybe that would be better. Maybe a cube that I then carve with the trim tool would be better, but I think this is, and I think I want to have it, I tend in the comic strip to have lots of come off of it, but I think what I'm going to do is have it be much more classic Hercule Poirot and not so much the Kenneth Branagh one. Shouldn't the eyebrows be fatter near the middle and then taper? Absolutely, absolutely. I think that was a side effect of how I exported the thing around, or how I drew it around the thing. Eventually, I'll fatten the middle bit there. I'm gonna use the drag tool at the top and bottom, and then these will likely shoot off and get thinner and wispier. And ideally, they should curve and mirror the mustache in that way, and then his hair will plume out and in the same fashion. I honestly had no idea if this drawing on the thing and then extending it out would work. I'm still not sure it has, but so selecting that shape, then I'm going to choose the mask tool. A nice shell thickness. That's the distance it will extract, and then I'm going to extract. Nope, I don't like it. Do what I did with the eyebrows, which accidentally worked out because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm going to use a nice thin brush with mask. I'm going to move in real close. Oops. And unmask. With a super thin brush. I'm just going to put in some debris in it, which I did unintentionally the first time around. I just sort of sketched it in and to see what happened, and I think it's going to, when it extrudes it, it will more variance in the shape and give me a better starting point for yeah, that's better. That'll give me more to work with. Then we smooth tool. And just mess with it a bit. And now I'm gonna use the drag tool. I probably made way too much mustache there. The nice big radius. It out. Use the drag tool at a much smaller radius and then just pull bits out. And I'm going to do what I did with the eyebrows, which is I'm going to inflate them and then carve into them. I'm kind of hoping that some of the original irregularity that I built into it will come out in the final, but who knows, I might end up just having to carve the whole thing and start over. I'm going to increase the mesh. Again, I don't know what I'm doing. But I got really lucky in how the first one turned out, so I'm clearly an expert. All right. Should the eyebrows be fatter, almost as tall as they are wide? Yeah. Oh, thanks, Max Power. Well, good luck. I'm gonna go eat. David, thank you so much. Sweet. I really appreciate it. Seriously, more viewers than I've had. I think I have more people on than I have subscribers. So I'm gonna carve into it. Again, the tools. This application is called Nomad Sculpt. It's awesome. That original mask that I had drawn, I'm going to clear it so it's not there behind me, distracting me. I'm going to smooth some more as a starting point. Honestly, don't know what I'm doing. Use the trim tool. That's autosave. Unlike Procreate, which saves the work as you go, Nomad Sculpt kind of requires you to save, and it has a built-in save feature to keep you from losing your work. Although I have not had much problem with this crashing or anything like that. I'm going to smooth the top of it. Oh, I didn't complete the shape. Smooth the top. And the plan was for these to be like D&D miniatures. That's why they were drawn on these pedestals and why I'm putting them on them. Now I'm going to smooth that shape. And I'm going to use the gizmo tool, which apparently a lot of 3D programs call the object which moves things around the environment. I'm going to flatten it a bit and then pull it forward. I should bring it forward on the figure. Yeah. I might extrude it a little bit further. What you can do, which is kind of awesome, is you can use the extrude tool to where are we? So use a mask. Currently nothing is selected, but if you invert the selection, suddenly the entire thing you've got is selected, and you can increase the shell thickness of that a bit. And what that does is it takes the whole thing and basically creates a shell around it. Like instead of just extruding the eyebrows out, it takes the whole thing and extrudes the whole thing and makes the whole thing thicker. And I did that like in my previous model on the cape because I was really concerned that if someone tried to 3D print it, it would fall apart. So I'm going to select those two objects and voxel merge them. That will fit them together a bit. But I'm a big fan of David's work and Mouse Guards, and he I'm glad he stepped away because he kind of said, oh, you should definitely be on Twitch, and I'm like, okay. But I'm also on YouTube, and that's why I currently stream this to both Twitch and the YouTube, and that's why below you'll see different icons for each network. So now I'm going to use that crease tool, but instead of creasing, I'm going to have it extend out a bit. So it's set to sub, which is the, usually subtract, but in this case, this is going to add. Again, I don't know. I really need to do more close-up sketching of his face to make sure I how. Like it should be like that. The models I love of the 3D models. Again, I'm not a 3D modeler. I'm a cartoonist. Again, please direct your attention to middleagecomic.com. I'm not a 3D modeler, but the 3D models I love, the Disney Infinity 3D models of those little toys for that game that came out a few years ago. Awesome. Just so good. Weta Workshop has got a mini epics line. They've done figures for Alien and Battle Alita, but the best ones are their Planet of the Apes, Lord of the Rings, and they are gorgeous. They have vinyl figures that are under 50 bucks. I've been waiting for a sale to snap up a bunch of them, but they are, holy cow, awesome. The hands, the Saruman staff. The best one is Radagast. Holy cow. It is such a joy. But I look at that and, like, you know, that's my North Star for if I could ever make my characters from my comic, you know, iconic. So the plan is for me to work on this probably for a little while longer, just a little while longer this evening. And I'm going to continue it tomorrow from 4 to 8. But I'm probably going to start over again. This is me getting a handle on how I want to approach this figure. So this remeshing part is going to increase the number of pixels I have to work with on this mustache. And now I'm softening it. Because when you use that, when you use some of the tools, the resolution of the object you're working on, it can create a stair-steppy look to what you're working on. And my goal is not to make it look naturalistic as much as to make it look cool. You know, he's a wizard. Look naturalistic. And because we'd be able to see it from the back as well, I'm going to build up the reverse of the... Again, not entirely sold on that. The tricky bit's going to be the beard, and how can I make this voluminous bit of awesome. Comic's been going on for about 5 years. A little over 5 years now. It has been nominated for an Eisner Award, Ringo Award, the Award. It has not won any of them, but it's an honor to be nominated. Yeah, that little hanging off bit there might look awesome, but it will absolutely choke a printer or something on, so I'm just going to trim that off. If this is going to be a model for a D&D figure, this thing's going to be about the size of it'll be smaller than a pencil eraser. DePugo writes on Twitch, says, I collect designer toys, art toys, and other collectible figures. Love some mystery blind boxes. I plan to sculpt on polymer clay my own anytime soon. This one you plan to 3D print? Oh, yes. Yes. I don't have a 3D printer anymore. I had one of the XYZ Da Vinci machines, which was fine, but it was gigantic, and my office is, you know, mostly now it's reserved for, like, if the camera turns, it's mostly just fulfillment stuff for online orders and Kickstarters and things like that. It just took up too much room, and the quality was something that I didn't really want to tinker with that much. It did some cool stuff. I wish I had it when I started doing some baking, because I would have loved to have made cookie cutters with it. But this will be... I'm going to talk to someone who's got a resin... there's a vendor I know who has a resin printer, and see if they will make a model of my me save this where it is. Melvin test. And open the previous one. Okay, this is the actual STL. So this is all a single object. This is the previous one I did. His hair is... he's almost bald, so it was less of a concern. But I was really happy with things like the flowing cape, the tears in the cape, the flowing bottom portion of the tabard. But this STL will be available. Oh, thank you. This will be available to my Patreon supporters tomorrow. It's a fairly large STL. I don't know how well it would work with a extrusion printer because of the very fine, you know, if you try to print it Dungeons and Dragons mini style, those arrows will just probably, you know, with a filament printer, those arrows might bend a bit. Or you'll have to put in way too many struts, supports. But I think a resin printer might do fine with it. I will see, but I'm going to have someone do that. But I was super happy. Second one I had done. This was the first one I had done, but the issue with this initial figure was the pose is essentially the same, but it's way stiffer. Like, he's not lunging forward as much. A lot of work went into it. I ended up reusing the cake and the boots and the arrow and the sword, of course. I wasn't gonna... The sword, this program is really not good at simple extrusions, so I created the sword extrusion in the sword STL in Photoshop. And but the figure was fine. I was really thrilled that I was able to make that, but then having learned how to make that let me make the next one. And so that's kind of my approach now with Melvin, the wizard. To get him to look halfway decent in a rough way. That means when I hit the ground tomorrow with like, okay, let's start this over, that one won't be so bad. Yeah, the eyebrows eventually will curve up. Each one will be separate. Right now, when you have symmetry on with the figure in this program, it's great because when you, let's say we're going to add a bag under one of the eyes. It's way too thick. So we add a bag, then it appears under both eyes, on both sides of the face. But when you're done, you turn symmetry off, and then you can drag. You know, you can move one eyebrow down or lift. You move this whole thing up out of the way. Oopsie-doo. Go to the front. But you see how now one eye is open? So you can, once you turn the symmetry off, you can have a lot of fun. And this thing has like 1,000 levels of undo. 999 levels of undo. Until you program out, you can always jump back a lot. I wish I could turn that down. I feel like that's going to use way too much RAM. Okay, let's go back to square one. Let's try that beard. How am I going to make a beard? I think I want to make a whole new shape. Like an egg, like a secondary sphere that I will... Oop, I'll do that. I will enlarge. Bring forward. Validate it and increase the mesh to a lot because I know there's a lot of stuff in there. We're going to drag. Move first. Because I want the beard to come up and be part of the cheekbones. So I'm going to make the thing quite large, and then the design of the character was mostly as a half moon, that the beard and the hat would create this kind of half moon shape. So I want to have that present in here. I have the intensity up way high, which might be creating too much of a problem. I can show you what that means. When the intensity is way up and you move something out, you can see that almost sphere shape where it's grabbed at. Excuse me. But if the intensity is lower, it's a much softer pull. That's kind of the understanding of how that works. So even if you're using a larger brush, the softer intensity will be less severe in terms of how it tugs on things. So let me go back. Let me turn this beard off for a moment. Let me call it beard. Oh, not eared. Beard. I'm going to turn that invisible. Go back to the... I'll rename the eyes. Make sure my layers are labeled like I should do. Face. His face is very skinny. I'm going to use the knife, the trim tool, and slice off a section of the face. That's going to help create the narrow cartoon shape of our wizard's face. I'm going to use the polygon tool. The polygon tool in this program is weird. As soon as you create the third, for all I know there's a setting, but as soon as you create the third dot in the polygon, it automatically closes the shape. And then you can add as many additional polygons as you'd like. But anything that is inside the shape that I'm drawing will be deleted, and symmetry is on, it will delete it from the other side as well. You can invert that, so anything that is in the area that you've selected will stay and everything else will go away. And when you tap those pieces, if you tap them, every time you tap them, they switch from being a sharp corner to a rounded corner. And then when you hit that green dot, I turned off symmetry. I did that to myself. Well, second time's always faster. Perfect. And then I can use the smooth tool to soften those hard edges. But I'll be adding so much like the beard and the ears and all the other parts of the face that it'll all work out. And add some more of the cheekbone back. Perfect. All right, lovely people. Thank you so much for visiting. Thank you so much, David, for bringing folks over. I hope you come back next time. It was a lovely surprise. Thank you. Again, you can read my webcomics at WEBTOONs, Tapas, and GoComics. My webcomic is called The Middle Age. Totally free to read online. There are 2 collections so far. Soft covers available from Amazon. Hardcovers available from me at comic.com. Ooh, there they are below. The 2 hardcovers, and those come signed if you pick them up from my shop. And my Patreon is patreon.com/Steve Conley, where you can get the STLs of these models as I finish them. And there's like at the $5 level, there's like 11 PDFs you get of various books, including those collections of those 2 things, digital edition. Thank you so much for visiting. I hope you had a nice time. I hope wherever you are, you're warm. And I'll see everyone tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. East Coast time in the U.S. Thanks again, and be well.